Hello guys and welcome. Today I'm going to guide you through how to host your own app or website for free using Firebase. By the end of this tutorial, your web app will be live and accessible online. We'll start with a brief setup of a React app framework using Visual Studio Code, but the focus of this tutorial will be more on deploying it to a Firebase hosting. Let's begin. Firstly, we'll create the structure of a React app using Vite. Next, we'll install the Firebase CLI tool, which is essential for managing Firebase services from the terminal. Then we'll log into Firebase and configure the hosting setup for our project. And finally, we'll deploy the app to Firebase hosting, making it available online for free. To start, create a new folder for your project. Open the folder in the terminal and run the following command: npm create vite at latest. This quickly scaffolds a basic app structure. Choose React as the framework and JavaScript as the variant. This step is just to set up a simple app to demonstrate the hosting process. Navigate into the newly created project folder by typing cd app, or replace app with the folder name that you've chosen, and then install the dependencies with npm install. Once installed, you can preview the app by running npm run dev, and a local development server will start, and your app will be open in the browser. We can then stop this development server with Ctrl and C and open the project in Visual Studio Code by running code space dot in the terminal. Once this is open, you'll be able to go through the structure and view the app that we've just created. As you can see in source here, this is the main app file which Vite creates for us. Now let's focus on Firebase hosting. Open a new terminal in VS Code. Install the Firebase CLI globally by running npm install -g Firebase tools. This will allow you to use the Firebase commands in the terminal. Next, you can log into Firebase by typing Firebase login. This will open a browser window where you can sign in with your Google account. After entering your credentials, you should get a Firebase login successful screen. Once logged in, go to firebase.google.com, and once you're signed in here, navigate to the Firebase console. Here, you can create a new Firebase project. Do this by clicking Get Started with a Firebase project. In this step, you'll need to give your project a name. This can be anything you want as long as it's unique for Firebase. Accept the Firebase terms and click through the next steps. I'm going to skip Google Analytics as it's not needed for this app, but feel free to select whichever options you need for your app. Now, once you click Create Project, this should start building the project in your Firebase dashboard. Once this is complete, click on Continue and it should navigate to your Firebase dashboard. Within the dashboard, you'll find a range of powerful tools to add to your project. Some of the most common ones include hosting, which is fast, free hosting for your web app or static files with a global CDN. Storage, which is scalable storage for user-uploaded files securely integrated into your app. Authentication, which is secure login methods like email, Google, or other social accounts. And Firestore, which is a NoSQL database for storing and syncing app data in real time. For this tutorial, we're just going to be using hosting, so if you click on hosting and then go to Get Started, Firebase will then guide you through the setup process. This shows you some of the steps that we've already done. npm install -g Firebase tools installs the CLI globally. We've already done this, so click Next. We then do Firebase login, which we've also already done. And then we need to do Firebase init, which we'll go through now. We'll do this by typing Firebase init in our terminal. When prompted, select hosting by pressing the spacebar and hit enter. It'll then ask which project you want to use. We can select use an existing project as we've already created ours. And then we'll select the tutorial one that we've just made. It'll then ask for our public directory. For our Vite app, this is going to be created in the dist directory, so we need to type dist here. Enable single page app routing by confirming this with yes. This means that all access for our app will go through index.html. And for this tutorial, we'll just skip the GitHub builds and deploys. So Firebase init sets up all your Firebase services for the project and creates all the configuration files. So you may see now that there's a Firebase RC and a Firebase.json file. Firebase RC maps your local project file to a Firebase project in the cloud. firebase.json defines your Firebase hosting and other services for the deployment. Now that these are created, our next step is to run Firebase deploy. When you run this in a terminal, Firebase will then provide a hosting URL for your app. Before we run this though, we're going to have to run npm run build. This is a vite command which will build all of the files for our app, and these will be placed in the dist folder. This is index.html, which will be the single point of access for the app, and then we'll also have the assets folder, which will contain all the styling and the JavaScript for the app. We'll also have image files, SVGs, and any other assets inside this folder, and these will all be uploaded and hosted on the Firebase project. Finally, we'll run the last command, Firebase deploy. This is the command which actually deploys our app to Firebase, and it will give us a URL so that we can view this online. If we hold Control and click on hosting URL, this should then load our browser with our web app running. As you can see now, this is the same app we had running locally earlier, but it's now running on the Firebase URL tutorial.web.app. This is now accessible for anyone online with the link. Thanks for following along. Hope this tutorial was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and if you have any comments, please leave them below.